AI isn't a magic bullet for sports betting. The quote-unquote experts promising quick or instant riches by simply just asking ChatGPT to make a profitable sports model are just selling you a fantasy. Most people fail when it comes to AI and sports betting, and there's a fundamental reason why. They're approaching it completely backwards. Here's generally what happens. Someone will go onto YouTube and find like a fancy video, be like, ooh, AI, what are the latest tools for AI? Oh, we can use it for sports betting. So they'll think, oh, this is quite an interesting idea. Let's just quickly fire up ChatGPT or Claude AI, whatever they want to use, and just type in, build me a profitable sports model. Now, for example, they might like the NBA, so they'll type in, build me a profitable NBA sports model. They're starting with nothing. No edge, no insight, or no unique perspective. And then they'll just expect these AI tools to magically come up with value out of thin air. It's like asking a calculator to buy some stocks or shares for you without giving it any data to work from. The tool can only work with what you give it. And just like with the stocks and shares markets, the sports betting markets are efficient, especially in the top tier sports like NBA, NFL, English Premier League, etc. If finding an edge was just as simple as typing into ChatGPT, build me a profitable NBA model, these billion-dollar sports books and sports betting websites aren't going to last for very long. And also, if you don't have any like dev knowledge or coding expertise, and you type this into ChatGPT or Claude and it spits out the model, if you actually look at it, like, what does this bit even mean? And if it is pulling data, then where is this data set coming from? Can it be trusted? Like, is it real, or is it just making up the data on the spot? And so it's like these kind of traps that most people will fall into when it comes to using AI for sports betting. At the minute, AI isn't magical. It's just a tool. An incredibly powerful one, but still just a tool. It can help implement, grow, and scale your ideas faster than ever before, but it just can't create that core insight for you. And so let's dive into how to actually use AI to create a profitable sports betting model. And the foundation of this isn't about the technology, it's your unique insights. Every profitable system begins with a theory, an edge that you believe exists in the market. So this is where your expertise come into play. For example, you might have seen that specific NCAA college basketball teams consistently underperform on short rest. Perhaps you've noticed maybe in the props market where if one player gets injured, then another doesn't tend to perform particularly well. These are just a couple of random examples that we thought of, but the key is that your understanding matters. You're not just asking AI to come up with these for you. A good edge candidate has a couple of key characteristics. It's specific and testable. It has logical reasoning behind it. It targets inefficiencies that the market may overlook, and it's something that you can articulate clearly. And once you have this defined, then everything else, including like the data, the code, the testing, everything serves to validate this insight. So once you've defined your edge, now you're ready for the next step, which is collecting the data necessary to test if this is an actual thing. The quality of your model can never exceed the quality of your data. Garbage in, garbage out. And this is where probably a lot of people will make their first crucial mistake. They'll just try and use data which is easily available and may not actually make the most sense based on their defined edge. So the data you need to collect must be able to answer a couple questions based on your theory. First, and probably the most basic one, is like, what exact variables do you actually need to test the theory? You should also ask, like, how far back in time do I really need to go to make sure that the data is validated successfully? How granular do you need your data? So is this like a game level, or maybe like a quarter or a half level, or maybe does it need to be play by play? And then also, do you need control variables in order to test your edge? Now, of course, there will be some easy places where you can find data, but you shouldn't just rely on the first search to find everything. You need to be prepared to go deep with this. In general, there are like 4 different ways that you can collect the data. The first is like a dedicated sports website. So like ESPN, or for example, if you're doing a basketball theory, then you'd want to use Basketball Reference. You've got public APIs, so like Sportradar or like the Odds API, where you can get like structured data, but these tend to not be as granular. So you'd probably want to use something else if you're going to dive into the detail. You've also got web scraping, where you can create custom scrapers to collect the data from all these public websites. And this will give you more control over the data you collect because you can actually be specific in what you want to create. But this will require a little bit of maintenance if the sites change. And then, of course, there's the holy grail, which is custom data. And this is data which is unique to you, either data you create yourself, or it's data that you create based on like merging one source with another. Not collecting enough data or collecting the wrong data is the primary reason why backtesting will fail. One of the reasons why markets tend to be so efficient is because They've seen all these short-term patterns before. And so if the data isn't readily available, then you need to get creative. And this is where AI becomes a really valuable tool. No matter what your edge is, there are two key components of data: the input variables, the conditions that trigger your edge, and the outcome variables, the actual results to measure performance. You must absolutely collect both in order to test your theory. And you must also be aware of the common pitfalls to avoid. You need to avoid certain biases like survivorship bias, selection bias in the games that you choose to collect data from. If you're collecting data from multiple sources, then you need to make sure that the data definitions are consistent between each other. And you need to also avoid data contamination from future results. The AI can't tell you what to gather, but it can help you gather it more efficiently. Which brings us to the next step, which is once you've collected your raw data, you're still not quite ready to build the model. You need to now clean it and format it. And this is where AI can also really come into its own. Here are some of the essential tasks that you need to do when cleaning your data. You need to standardize the format across different sources. You obviously need to correct any errors and inefficiencies, convert the data types into the right format for your model, and also then create unique identifiers in order to link the data sources together. And the beauty of AI with this is that what used to take like thousands of hours to do can literally only take a couple hundred of hours to do now. We've used AI to do all the heavy lifting, but we still needed to tell it what exactly needed to be done. Here are some of the likely formatting changes that you'll probably need to make throughout your testing. The most common one will be player name and team name inconsistencies between the datasets. And this is particularly important in like international sports where some names might have like accents on them in one source, but then another will just have like the English version with no accents on it. And so if you don't find a way to bring them together or tell the AI that they're the same thing, then you will get inconsistencies. And then in a similar vein, there's different time and date formats that you need to be aware of, the various odd formats from sportsbooks, and also just be aware that historical records may change as well. Now, there is a temptation here to get to the exciting part of building a model, so you might feel like you just want to speed through and clean it as quickly as you can. But you must resist this urge. Like we said earlier, garbage in, garbage out. The accuracy of your results in the backtesting entirely depends on the quality of your data. So this is where you can really use AI, not to create your edge, but in implementing the technical aspects of data engineering that otherwise might have required specific set of skills. So once your data is clean and formatted correctly, now you're ready to transform this edge into code. But let's get one thing very clear. The edge script that you write in AI isn't now again just same as use this data to build a profitable betting model. You need to translate your theory into a series of logical steps that you can program the AI to execute. And here's how you can do it. First, write out your theory in plain language. Then break it down into logical rules and conditions that need to be met in order to test the theory. Define exactly how these signals are generated. Specify how to handle edge cases and exceptions. And then determine what the output of the script should produce. And we can't stress this enough. This is where you can save so much time with AI, and you really don't need to know how to code or have any developer skills whatsoever. At Sharper Edge, we are by no means like developers or anything like that. But what we know is profitable sports betting. And so AI has helped us bridge the gap between using code and sports betting. Now, for example, we might want to tell our AI, I need code that identifies NFL teams playing their second consecutive road game against opponents coming off a bye week, where the spread moved at least 1.5 points from the opening to closing. The key is that we've defined the logic based on our theory. AI is just going to help us implement it more efficiently. And the quality of your implementation directly affects the results. Efficient code allows for faster testing and iteration. Well-organized scripts can easily be modified or improved. Proper error handling prevents false signals. And clear documentation helps with your reasoning. Remember, bad code can make a good edge look bad. But good code can't save a bad edge. The implementation must be a true representation of your theory. But now, if you've come this far into the video and this just all seems like way too much work, then you should just head over to Sharper Edge where we've done all the work for you. Our models focus on niche sports that generate between 8 and 15% ROI per bet. And every bet is tracked so you can see the results for yourselves. And so if you'd rather just skip the entire model creation process together and start making money today, and then just go ahead and click the link in the description to get started. Now, for those of you who want to continue building the model, then with your own edge now implemented in code, you're ready for perhaps the most critical part of it all. Rigorous backtesting to separate real edges from just the noise. Backtesting isn't really about proving that your theory is right. It's about proving that it's wrong. You must approach this with like a scientific level of skepticism, not through your emotional attachment to the idea. There are a few non-negotiable elements of backtesting, and these include testing across multiple timeframes, accounting for the odds available, applying the appropriate datasets, and controlling for common factors that might determine the results. And it's equally important to avoid these traps. The first is look-ahead bias, where you'll accidentally use future information as part of your backtesting. There's survivorship bias, where you only analyze players or teams that persisted. There's overfitting, where you create a model that fits perfectly with old data, but not with new data. You need to avoid multiple comparison problems where you end up testing a bunch of variations that eventually random patterns emerge. And then, of course, there's ignoring the market accessibility, where you just assume you can get the optimal lines all the time. For example, if you're backtesting an NFL totals model, then at the very least, you should be testing this model across multiple seasons. You need to account for any changing scoring environments over time. You need to consider if the lines are available based on what your model assumes to be the optimal line. You need to have a large enough sample size for your backtest to actually look like it makes sense. And then also test its significance against like random chance. But even the most successful backtesting can't promise future profits. Which brings us to the final step, which is implementing your model and edge into the live environment. And this is to ensure that your edge persists in real world conditions. After all, the market is constantly evolving, and so your edge needs to evolve with it. The tracking isn't about recording your wins and losses. It's about comparing your predicted outcomes with the actual results. And this is to iterate and refine your approach. Now, after you've backtested and you've implemented it into real world, if your edge starts to weaken, then you have a few options available. You could refine your parameters based on any new data that becomes available. You could incorporate new variables into your model and then backtest those. You could perhaps pivot to maybe a related edge that might be less exploited. Or of course, you could suspend betting until you figure out what's going on. Developing an edge with an AI is never just a one and done. You develop the theory, you backtest it to hell, you implement it live and track the results, identify any weaknesses in the model, refine the theory, and then repeat the process again. And it's this constant iteration and refinement where permanent edges are built. And the beauty of AI is that it can just speed this whole thing up. And so this combination of using our own knowledge and creativity, combined with the efficiency of implementation with AI, has created this powerful feedback loop where there's just now an insane opportunity to make a bunch of money through sports betting. And it's with this approach, starting with our own edges and then leveraging them with AI, has totally transformed our operations here at Sharper Edge. We've implemented dozens of profitable edges in niche sports markets. We're far quicker and more efficient in determining winners and losers. And we can do all this without any dev or coding background at all, which means that there's no reason why you can't do this too. Start with your own unique edge and then use these AI tools as the accelerator to test, implement, and refine them. But if you would like to just skip all this and start making money straight away today, then just head over to the Sharper Edge website. The link is in the description and get started today. You can expect daily model predictions for all our sports, full profitability breakdowns, clear unit size recommendations, access to historical performance data, as well as a detailed analysis as to why we're betting in the first place. Click the link in the description to get started, and we'll see you inside.